Hello, Daisy Cakes. This is Daisy X Machina, the drag queen detective who investigates all things speculative in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And this is a Get Ready With Me where I put on drag makeup to film a video later today. And we have Lori, and we have Lynette, and we have John. Thank you guys for coming. And the question, as usual, is how is your reading going? This week, I finally read Impossible Creatures by an author whose name I forgot, Catherine Rundell. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. Lynette's the one that recommended it to me, and it was released in the UK and I guess Australia before it was released in the US, like a year. So I had to wait a year before I could get it. It's a middle grade novel, so it's a children's book. I don't know how I would have felt reading it when I was like 12 years old, because it's written for around that age range. It's, I don't know, but I guess you guys are probably not going to read it, so I guess I could spoil it. But I mean, there's two deaths that sort of caught me off guard because you don't really expect it in children's fantasy like this. And I don't know how I would have felt about those two deaths when I was that age. I don't know if that would have put me off the book, or I think I would have been upset. So I don't know. Yeah, Lynette, you've read the book, so you have to let me know. So this week I wanted to try another purple, but I was thinking about just doing like a yellow cut crease. So something a little different. And today I'll be filming Shelve It or Shove It for next month, because I just released Shelve It or Shove It for October this week. And probably another episode of the top 100 science fiction. Oh, by the way, another spoiler, I'm probably going to, now that I've read Impossible Creatures, put Rundell as a, into the top 100 fantasy list and get rid of someone else. Okay. So yeah, in this Shelve It or Shove It, I picked the horror book, The Queen. I can't believe I didn't say anything about the the title. I'm kind of excited to read it. I'll definitely start it this week, I think. Right now, I'm reading this middle grade horror by what's his name? K.R. Alexander, which I've never heard of him before, but apparently he's written a lot of books, and they're very short horror. So I was expecting something like Goosebumps by R.L. Stine. And I don't really recommend this if you're not into children's books. But I'm kind of surprised at how well it's written. I mean, it's even playing around with the words on the page, like a poem sometimes do. And the one I'm reading is Dead Girl's Diary. But anyway, after that, I'll start the Queen. It's what you said about the beginning. I had no trouble with deaths in books when I was young. No, I did like Impossible Creatures. I thought it was excellent, and it's going to be on my top 100 fantasy books. But I'm sort of asking myself whether or not I would have liked it when I was young, because those two deaths were pretty unexpected, I thought. If I remember correctly, Love the Two Children, the Tiny Dragon. It was a tiny griffin. Oh, the Tiny Dragon. Yeah, there was a tiny dragon. There's also a tiny griffin in the ship's captain. Yeah, there was a lot of great characters. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it me? Lori hasn't read this much this week. This week I reread the 10th book in the Flavia series. There's been 5 years between the 10th and the 11th book, so I needed to reread. I've not read much since he had to move. Yeah, moving can really take a lot out of you. Yeah, I still have to read the Flavia book, which I've already bought but haven't gotten to yet. So I might do that after the Queen. And I just read the book prior to that. Was it the 10th book? Just like a couple months ago. Or was it last month? I don't even remember. But the Flavia novels are really standalones. You don't really need to reread the old ones, but there are events with the family that, if you want to continue the timeline, that's good to know, especially about the father. Okay. So I think I'm going to use this to do black. Actually, this one was. We were glad to get out of your previous house. Well, great. I also read Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. And I haven't even heard of it. Heard of the miniseries anyway. Glad to hear it wasn't awful. Congrats on the new place. It's a slice of heaven. Where are you now, John? Or yeah, where are you now? You still in Hawaii? I assume. Okay, let me just. That's really not even. Yeah, this week I'm dealing with a sick cat. Our cat Angel, who I call Angel Cake, which is why I say Daisy Cake. But I noticed on one of my videos I said, "Hello, Angel Cakes." I haven't released the video yet, but if you see it, I'm thinking about my cat. But she's 16 years old, which is pretty old for a cat. And she doesn't let the vet touch her. She just goes berserk. And she's lost a lot of weight and she's losing her hair. So we're going to have to try taking her in again. But this time they gave us something to make her drowsy, so she's a little bit more pliable. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that will work. We are back up in, oh, I don't know how to pronounce that, Makawao in Maui. Yeah, I have a friend I worked with that just moved to Hawaii. Well, not a couple years ago, moved to Hawaii. Seems like the dream place to be. Oh, no problem, John. No problem if you have to miss these. Magpie is a book in a book. The author is murdered, which is one story, but his editor is reading his unpublished book, which is the other storyline. Very interesting. Evie is here, yay! Catching another Get Ready With Me. I'm reading middle grade right now, just finished Impossible Creatures, which I liked. It was a little depressing, but I liked it. The author is played by the guy who played Varys. Oh, I love Varys, the spider. Poor Angel, my old girl George is 14. Thankfully, she is not yet showing her age. Our Mira is approaching 10. Yeah, I was just like saying she was a senior cat. But then in the vet's office, they had this little chart. And I think at 16, she's now considered geriatric. So, and she's become really obsessed with water, like running water. Like she'll walk in, we have a shower where there's a door you can open. And if I leave the door open, she'll walk into the shower with me, which she's never done before. And then she'll like lick the floor. It's weird. But yeah, she's really not looking great. Oh, it says Evie's here. I'm, as you know, I've tried to break into the middle grade market. My previous book did not do well, and it didn't get me an agent. But I'm about to start querying again with another middle grade book, so we'll see. Of course, we all have our inner demons, and mine is saying, maybe I'm just too old to start being a writer. Maybe I missed the window. Tiny dog is now 15. Oh, it is interesting, I think, that the smaller the dog, the longer they live. Like big dogs rarely, you know, live to 15, but tiny dogs can live as long as a cat. But I have never heard of that, Lori. Canine dementia? Oh my goodness. Sister found several letters my grandmother wrote to a page called Young Folks in a local paper. Within the letters, she lists some books she read. Oh, that's so interesting, Lynette. Oh, I love that. Yeah, sorry about the doggy. Two of the books were by H. Rider Haggard. The only thing I've read is She. I think there's a sequel too. But he was one of those writers, along with Edgar Rice Burroughs, I remember seeing in the bookstores in the 70s, and never really connecting how old those books were. So, I mean, I knew they weren't recent, but I didn't realize they were like really old. Oh, thank you, Evie. She joined by middle grade and was bummed it didn't get an agent. Yeah. Well, who knows? Who knows what will happen next? Nonsense. Well, you have these thoughts, John. There's no, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Thank you, Lori. I hear what you're saying, but the more I investigate being a writer these days, you hear people talking about, oh, it takes 10 years to develop your craft and get an agent and this and that. And and I've heard people like say, well, you know, it takes like 20 years to really um, develop as a writer, and I don't have that. I don't have 10 or 20 years, you know. My entire career would have to fit within like a 10-year range. I mean, realistically. So, anyway. Um, anyway, this new novel I'm going to try to uh, get an agent with is more horror, more of a middle grade horror, which is why I've been reading a lot of middle grade horror. But it's kind of funny that I'm on this Substack with a published author, and you can submit her things and she'll review it. She's suggesting I not call it middle grade horror unless an agent is specifically looking for it. And she was saying middle grade adventure or speculative adventure or something like that. And if you don't know, and I don't know why you would know, um, but the market for kids' book has been plummeting in the last couple years. It's like the worst time to try to get started. It's like 1.5 million books in the first half of this year. 1.5 million books were sold less than the same period last year, which seems like a huge number. And no one can really figure out why the children's market has suddenly plummeted, but there's a lot of theories. Of course, the big one is because kids are on phones now, so they're not reading. But the other interesting theory is that during COVID, that 2 years during COVID, that kids didn't go to school except on Zoom or whatever, but their reading skills of that one cohort of kids sort of got stifled. And now they're in the, and we're talking about like 6 to 8. Now that they're in the 8 to 10 year range, 8 to 10 years old, that they haven't developed the reading skills to appreciate books that the prior class had developed, which is why they aren't buying books. That's just a theory. No one really knows, but it kind of makes sense that there's because a lot of people that get into reading, not all, but a lot of them develop a love of reading around that 8 to 12 year old range. So we're kind of missing that in this little 2 year block. Okay. There's no cutoff for achieving. Thank you. Thank you. You are reading someone's opinion, Daisy, not necessarily the truth. We all have self-doubt. Yeah. I don't even know if it's someone's opinion. It's just my own self-doubt. You're absolutely right. I've been writing since 2011. Some people have written best-selling books while still teenagers. I am still amazed by Christopher Paolini. He started writing Aragon when he was 16. It wasn't published till I was like 18. But even so, it's a remarkable story because that was such a big success. Oh, I'm so sorry, John. Well, you're still writing, so that is fantastic. Going to get it finished. Yay. I need a ghostwriter. I have good ideas, not disciplined enough to write a book. Ghostwriters are expensive. I am writing a guide to alien civilizations of our galaxy from TV and movies. Working title is A Crowded Galaxy. I love that. So it's nonfiction about the different alien civilizations. And I would buy that book. John, you got to finish that one. Cool Gamer is here. Now, I believe Cool Gamer is a writer because I see him on Lisa Daly's live stream. It's been fun and frustrating. Maybe the current financial situation is also affecting kids reading. Good point. Parents are unable to afford as many books. Who knows? No one really knows. Okay, so I did the purple and I wanted to cut it today with yellow. Yeah. So I'm going to have a yellow primer. I blame video games and iPads. But we've had video games and iPads for the past 20 years. So the question is, why the sudden drop in reading in kids over the past couple years? Which is why that COVID theory seems to make sense to me. Oh, before I do this, I need to sketch out where I want to go. Unfortunately for the children in my life, books are the only presents I give them for any occasion. Hey, I would have appreciated it. Although it is hard to buy books for people, kids or adults, if you don't know what they like. Okay, that's a little sloppy, but I just need a template. Stefan Bachman was quite young when he wrote his first book. I'm not sure he was a teenager. My son is 32 and still has trouble reading. Ugh, John. However, he's running his own business back in Scotland. Well, that's fantastic. Just looked it up. Stephen Bachman was 18 when he was first published and in his mid-20s when he wrote Cinders and Sparrows. Oh, I didn't know that. I read Cinders and Sparrows. I had no idea he was that young. Okay. Okay. Try to add a little white. Okay. Gosh, I'm sure you don't see what I'm doing, but it is a little bit of an ombre. My son is in his 40s. When he reads nowadays, it's mainly reading his favorite fantasy series or rereading his favorite fantasy series. Jane Gaskell had her first book published at 14. Wow. I tend to look up authors' bios if I like their books. Yeah, I've been looking up for these top 100 fantasy and science fiction lists. I've definitely been looking up bios, which is another reason why I'm looking at ages, because there's so many authors that have passed away by my age. I'm thinking, makes you think. That's all I'm saying. Mm. I'm going to go. Trying to ombre it out. There really aren't that many authors that have started late in life. I mean, there are a few, but I think it's more unusual, or just as unusual, than starting young. Yeah, I don't know why. I just don't reread books that often. Okay, I'm going to try to put... Okay. On a similar note, Grandma Moses didn't start truly painting until 78. Oh, I didn't know that, Lori. That is pretty late. I like reading old favorites now and again. There was an old guy who became famous for walking miles to raise money. I think he was in his late 90s. Wow. Then he bought out a book about his life, or brought out a book about his life. By walking, I mean he walked up and down the driveway using a walker. Oh! Okay, so unexpected. Okay. I'm going to... start with the chroma cake. I think Sherry, excuse me, I didn't mean to whistle. Sherry Tepper started late. She's a sci-fi fantasy author. But I think even that was in her 50s. Dan Callender, who was in my list of fantasy authors, started in his 60s. So you can definitely start being a writer in your 60s. It's just, like I said, kind of unusual. And I am sure there is ageism that you can't really put your finger on, but it's definitely a thing. True in the modern age. I'm talking about ageism. Okay. Just looked up. His name was Captain Thomas More. Walked 100 length of his garden in the run-up to his 100th birthday. Wow. I was misremembering he recorded a song after the walk. The book must have been written by someone else. That's still amazing. You know, Jimmy Carter, it's like turning 100 this week. So he's definitely the oldest president who's ever lived. That means he was born in like 1924. God, can you imagine? I'm sure his memories don't start till, well, the Great Depression, but. I definitely grew up with stories about the Great Depression. My stepmother, who was older than my father, but she was a child during the Depression. Okay. Mm. Okay, so that's what I wanted, the purple with the yellow. I am sometimes a victim of ageism, and I don't even qualify for the old age pension until February next year. John just qualified for his UK pension. Jimmy Carter wants to live long enough to vote one last time. Well, it's not really a problem. And you may disagree, but generally people think I look younger than I am, which can be good and bad. But if you're wondering, I was born in 1964, so you can do the math. Yeah, one of the women I work with, she's in her probably mid 60s. And she was saying something to me that it wasn't condescending, but She's like, well, you won't know until you get older. And I'm like, well, how old do you think I am? And she thought I was in my 40s. Okay. I think you look younger, Daisy. That happens with me too. Thank you, Lori. And of course, in drag makeup, you look totally younger than, well, I think you look younger than, you look different. $2 weeks, you get your first pension check. Yay, Lori. Mother went on old age pension at 60. I have to wait till 67. And here in America, I don't know how it works in Tasmania, but you can start younger. I think at 62, you can start your Social Security, but it's like cut in half. Like you won't get the full amount until you're 67. But if you wait till you're 70, you get more. So 66 for me. Currently on disability pension. 60 for women in the UK. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to. I don't know if anyone follows me on Instagram, but I've discovered this filter called the Bold Glamour. Which I've been using to post videos because, I mean, I don't feel like I'm catfishing anyone. I'm not posting photos for those purposes, and drag is all illusion anyway. So in the past, I go into Photoshop and I do like skin smoothing and whitening the teeth and everything. And it's a pain in the butt, but Bold Glamour does everything for you, has a better job, but it does a little bit too much. I wish there was like a Bold Glamour light, because it kind of lifts your face a little and distorts your lips a little bit, but I don't care. I'm lazy. Let the filter do it for me. Okay, so the eyes are done. People might live longer, but they get age-related diseases at the same age as they did in the past. Yeah, it sucks. That's what really sucks about getting old. I mean, even if you look young, I'm grabbing some paper towels. Even if you look young when you get older, you still suffer the same thing as everyone else your age, which I've been finding out. Okay, so lips. Should I do purple lips again? Probably. I want that filter. Too bad you can't put it on in real life. Hey, if I could film an entire video with the filter, I would do it. I think I just drooled a little bit. I have photoshopped a photo of old me to look young and beautiful. I've never used any filters in Photoshop. Don't even know how to use them. Okay, I'm just gonna. It says purple. Okay. This side. Okay. Not bothered how I look aging. Well, like I said, drag is the illusion of it. It's a little bit different as a guy. Oh, wow. Can't decide whether Flavia or TJ Klune. That's a hard one. I also want to read, God, there's so many books I want to read this year. I also want to read the new T. Kingfisher book. But for me, it's going to be The Queen because of Shelve It or Shove It. And then probably Flavia because I've bought it already. And then it'll be between T. Kingfisher and TJ Klune. Flavia, yeah. Well, we could all read Flavia and talk about it in a couple weeks. Old men aren't judged. Their looks the same as old women are. Very true. Sad but true. My wife is 72 and looks fantastic. Great, John. Okay. Oh, I know what it's going to do. It's going to... Just for a little sparkle. Okay. No Frank this week. Hope he's doing okay. Keanu Reeves' partner gets criticized because she has gray hair. She won't dye because she says dyes are toxic. Well, that's a good reason. I usually dye my hair, but I haven't recently, so this is what it's like. Okay, so we're going to do some eyelashes, and I think we're done. We did good work this week. Actually, we're gonna. No. I was seeing if I should do new eyelashes, but I think these are fine. People say she looks old enough to be his mother. Well, that's mean. I mean, Keanu Reeves is not exactly spring chicken. And I'm sure he's had a little bit of, not necessarily plastic surgery, but like Botox and hair dye and that type of thing. Because that's the Hollywood game. Oh, did you hear Maggie Smith passed away? She was one of my favorite actresses. And I'm not talking about Harry Potter. I mean, she's fine in Harry Potter, but my favorite movies with Travels with My Aunt, Gene Brody, California Suite. She's been in so many great movies in the 70s and earlier. I believe she was 89. And of course, she was fantastic in Downton Abbey, if you like Downton Abbey. It's one of the best parts of the show. But talk about someone working to their last breath. She was a fantastic actress. I agree. Alexandra Grant is 9 years younger than Keanu. Loved Maggie. I don't even know what she looks like. I'll have to look it up after this, after the live stream. Oh, I'm making a mess. Okay. Oh, you saw Travels with My Aunt. Oh, Marigold Hotel. People have not. I was obsessed with that movie, Travels with My Aunt, and I rarely find people that have seen it. Never watched Downton Abbey. It's a good series, I think. Okay. Okay, so the reason why I did this purple was I grabbed this wig. Zoom out a little. And I got some big earrings. And we'll put on some gloves. Oh, you like the wig, John? David Attenborough is still working at 98. Yeah, some people are like that. My dentist in San Francisco, his father was a dentist, and then he became a dentist. Anyway, he's older than me, and he just recently retired, but he was afraid to retire because his father, who was a dentist, I think worked till he was 70, then stopped working and immediately died. So I guess it was like a little brain worm that he can't retire without dying. But I know in his later years, his hands were a little bit shaky, which isn't great as a dentist. So I'm sure he would have continued to keep working if he could have. Okay, guys, this is the final look. I really like the yellow with the purple. And I like how I did this yellow. It's not sparkly necessarily, but it's a nice, very subtle ombre. So, Dad was working in 98, quit soon after. Thank you, Laura. You have a great week. Great week too. Glad you liked the wig. Probably in some remote location discovering a new species. Sir David has been several species named after him. Thank you, Evie. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you, John. And the same back to you guys. I should be here next week. I'm going to probably miss a couple of Saturdays in October, maybe the last two. I'm not sure. Well, I'm definitely missing the last. I'll let you know, but I should be back next week. And as usual, may all the books you read be blessed.